The best exercise program for grapplers, jiu-jitsu athletes, and hobbyists really depends on the individual's strengths and weaknesses and what their goals are. But there are some common themes that will apply across the board, and that's some of what I'll be going over in this video. If you want to check out more about how to become a more resilient and formidable grappler with your off-the-mats training time and get support along the way, along your journey, check out the link in the description. But now we'll get right into the meat and potatoes of the video. So building basic strength through the major muscle groups in your body will be a major key. Most people will gain the most bang for their buck from that alone, unless they're already coming from a background where they've invested a lot into strength training and they're very advanced in that area. In that case, they probably benefit more from working on other things like local muscular endurance, aerobic capacity, mobility, or flexibility. However, those are all things that you can also improve as a side effect of working on general strength, as well as getting those things from your jiu-jitsu or grappling training, which is why I recommend strength training as a primary focus of the program for most people. Second is building better movement, mobility, or joint health, which goes along with building general strength as it helps support building strength by reducing tweaks and injuries along the way and improving the quality of your form. But it can also be developed as a side effect of strength training intelligently. If you use the right movements that are appropriate for your body and your skill level and progress them properly over time, then you can get that as a side effect as well. I'm working on a separate video on the topic of corrective exercises and mobility or joint health training, where I'll share my experience exploring this topic over the years and give my opinion on the things to focus on in that convoluted and often misunderstood area. So stay tuned for that. So building general strength is pretty simple in theory. Just do your basic compound movements, push, pull, squat, and hinge with more reps and more weight over time while eating enough to fuel yourself and grow muscle, or at least recover from your workouts. However, putting this into practice is a bit more complicated, especially for jiu-jitsu athletes and grapplers who have to balance things like fatigue from the strength training with the very unpredictable fatigue of scrapping with your training partners and training on the mats. So there are two tools that mainly help to balance this. First is really optimizing the exercise selection and form within those categories of compound movements. We can modify the ranges of motion, the stance, different split or unilateral stances or bilateral stances. We can change the implements we use, like machines, different bars, etc. We can adjust the tempo, the speed, and other factors to set up an exercise that creates a better stimulus to fatigue ratio for that individual. Stimulus to fatigue ratio just means more bang for your buck, basically your buck being the energy and the fatigue, and your bang being how much muscle and strength you potentially gain from doing that. It's important to understand that I'm not saying fatigue is bad. It's necessary for adaptations to occur, and we just don't want to lower the fatigue and the stimulus. The goal is high stimulus and lower fatigue, and this will depend on the individual's body proportions, level of mobility, skill, experience, and other individual factors. This makes sense if you can imagine two extremes in this area. We've all seen videos of that guy at a gym doing 2-inch squats with a ton of weight. And that's costing him a lot of fatigue, spinal compression, while doing virtually nothing for his leg strength. Contrast that with squatting butt to heels with great form. That person will get a lot more quad and knee strength with a lot less weight on the bar and therefore less beat down on their spine. To carry that example further though, someone else might see people talking online about how great knees over toes is and how great ass to grass is, but for that person, squatting that low actually creates more fatigue because maybe they lack the mobility or because of their proportions. Forcing that range of motion may create more strain on their back, hips, or knees and really reduce how much they can get out of that exercise long term. They might get more out of reducing the range of motion slightly. So it's important to experiment here and find what works best for you. Another part of this process that I help clients and people I've worked with and members of my Grapplers Resilience and Performance Program community is using movement assessments to find restrictions and compensations, and using targeted mobility drills and isolation exercises to restore better movement where it's missing. And with that approach, you can often improve your form and movement so that you can get a lot more out of an exercise that might otherwise bother your back, knees, or hips. So basically, these are all ways of adjusting the form or the quality of the movement to get more out of an exercise, thus making it easier to balance with your jiu-jitsu training. The other side of this equation is quantity, or overall volume and progression method of your exercises. Things like how many sets are you doing, how hard are you lifting, and how are you progressing over time. Once you've dialed in the quality side of things that I just discussed, optimizing this quantity side of things can really make a huge difference in how easily you can balance strength gains with your jiu-jitsu training. The single most impactful concept for this is the minimum effective dose and the double progression model. And Here's a very simple way to do that. Simply starting with just 1 or 2 sets for each exercise in your program. And if you're new to the exercises at the start of your program, leave a couple of reps in reserve in those sets, meaning don't go all out to failure just yet. That will be your starting point and will give you a runway to be able to easily beat your performance in the next workout, which is in general what you'll be aiming to do each week or each workout. When you stall for a few workouts in a row without a good reason, like not sleeping well or being overly fatigued for some other obvious reason, then it might be time to add a set. So we're basically titrating up the dosage instead of going immediately to 3 sets of 10 or 4 sets of 8 or some other arbitrary number that you see on pre-made lifting programs, or if you were to ask ChatGPT to write you a strength training routine. The reality is you can make progress on a lot fewer sets than what might be optimal for someone who is focusing all their efforts on lifting. You need to train jiu-jitsu as well, so it's better to make slightly slower, more consistent progress that doesn't interfere with your grappling training, compared to doing the maximum number of sets to make faster progress for a period of time, then burning out or getting injured and needing to take a break. So check out my video entitled How I Hit PRs Every Workout While Training BJJ for some other strategies on progressing and hitting PRs to stay engaged and excited about your training while balancing it with your grappling. The truth is, most grapplers quit because of injuries and pain, not because of lack of passion, drive, or interest in this great sport and martial art. And if you're tired of jiu-jitsu injuries holding you back, check out my Grapplers Resilience program in the description. Along with direct access to me and a community of like-minded grapplers, you'll get a customizable program with educational modules, specific body part resilience protocols, an exercise library of some of the best lifts for grapplers, movement assessment protocols that I can analyze and help you find the drills that will help your hips, back, shoulders, etc. feel and move better, a system for balancing your strength training and your jiu-jitsu training so they have harmony together, and more that is constantly being added and improved upon. So check the link in the description below, and thanks again for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one.